Mr. Hancock, thank you very much for taking your time. I know you have a very busy schedule right now, promoting your new CD possibilities, which is unbelievable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing this music with the rest of the world. Studying your music for a couple of years, I sort of realized that you're coming with a big surprise every 10 years. There were the Headhunters in 73.
Right.
There was the Future Shock in 83. There was Gershwin's World in 95. And now there's Possibilities in 2005.
All right.
Which is a great idea, which leads me to my first question. Who was the basic mentor with this idea? Who had the plan? Who picked the songs? Who picked the singers, especially?
Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, I started thinking about the idea of doing some kind of collaborative record with artists from the pop field. But it was really in the back of my mind, you know. I was involved with other projects at that time. But last year, it occurred to me, you know, that, you know, if I'm going to do that, you know, why wait any longer? You know, and let's think seriously about doing a project like that. Of course, to attempt this kind of project, it's the potential is so much bigger than anything that I've really done before, that I felt it was necessary to figure out some kind of infrastructure and people to help me design the game plan for this kind of collaboration with, you know, major pop artists. And so I called upon my lawyer, who's also a friend of mine, to help me put people together, you know, to be producers and help kind of develop the idea, you know, whether it'd be one record producer doing everything, or should there be several producers, or, you know, that kind of thing. Who's going to manage the project? I've been my own manager now for 2 years, and I know this is much bigger than anything that I could handle. So we talked about hiring a management company to manage the project, which is also kind of a new idea. And then I got together with the team that we selected, and we had a meeting, and we talked about what artists would I be looking for, and what would the idea be, you know. And I didn't want to get what we call the flavor of the day, you know, artists that are, you know, just kind of doing surface music. But I was hoping to have not only artists of all ages, you know, seasoned artists, like, for example, Carlos Santana, who I know very well for many years. Sting, that I've known also for many years. And well, I also added on the list, besides those people, Annie Lennox and Paul Simon. But also young artists too. I wanted a spectrum of artists that have different number of years of experience in the music business, but artists that I feel, you know, young artists that I feel have the potential for lasting and developing the quality of their music, you know. The age range of the artists is so broad, you know. Paul Simon is kind of up there with me, age-wise, and Sting is, you know, close behind. And then you have people like John Mayer, who is a relatively new artist, but not brand new. Christina Aguilera is also relatively new. Joss Stone is newer, but these are, artists that are recognized for, playing today's music. But I also wanted really to introduce newer artists that are brand new in the record possibility. So I was able to do that with Raul Midon and Lisa Hannigan and Damian Rice. In each case, each track by these artists is really put together from a real collaborative effort, not just the conceiving of the vision for each song, but when we were in the recording studio, we didn't do things with just overdubs. The real spirit of this record is to truly collaborate and have musicians playing together in the studio, interacting, playing in the moment, developing the tracks live, and I think that's the reason that there's an organic sense to this record, a real human sense that the people who listen to it can feel.
If you play with a singer, if you play behind a singer, for a singer, if you're comping, do you play any different than you would play behind a horn player or guitar player? This is more an invitation for interpretation.
Considering that that instruments, the intonation of an instrument is determined by buttons you push or keys that you push, and for horn players, a lot of it is also the embouchure or the lip, or breathing. For singers, it's also breathing, but I would say that the voice, just the pitch, is a lot more fragile with the human voice than it is when you're playing an instrument. And so, whereas saxophone players can do all kinds of things that would be, virtually impossible for the voice to do, big range, jumps, except for maybe somebody like Bobby McFerrin. There are very few singers that could do. He's unique in that way. That he has that degree of control over. His voice really is pretty much like an
instrument.
Yeah, an external instrument. Because the voice is an instrument, but it's an internal one, So I might play different behind a singer. But not only for that reason, but it's just the sound of the human voice, that affects how I play. It affects the touch. The words to a song, which for years I never really paid attention to words to a song. I started off playing instrumental music when I was 7. And so I hear the harmonies. I hear the textures of orchestration. That's what I hear first. And when I hear words that are sung, and I've found out this is a problem with a lot of instrumentalists. Even though it can be sung in English, my native language, it just sounds like a sound, So it's a foreign language unless I'm physically looking at the words, Well, most human beings who are not musicians are exactly the opposite. They hear the words when they're sung, and they sound like, as understandable as spoken words or read words. It's hard for me to hear words that way when they're sung. It sounds strange, but it's true. But I learned in recent years from working with people like Joni Mitchell, who was an incredible poet, and watching her and her record producer, well, the records I was on, Larry Klein was the producer of her records, but they were both really producing it, and how she would select certain things that Wayne Shorter would play, certain things that I would play, and her selections were very much determined by the words. So, and of course, Stevie Wonder, who was both a great external instrumentalist, because he plays piano, he plays drums. I mean, he plays harmonica. Not just plays them, he really plays them. And what an incredible instrument he has as a voice. And he writes lyrics, he's also a poet in that sense. Bottom line is that I've been paying attention to lyrics a lot more in recent years than I have in the past. So before I even made the record Possibilities, I already had this in mind that, okay, on this record I'm going to have to pay a lot more attention to the words, because I want to be able to use as many of the forces that are inherent in making a vocal song as I can. So words are now important to me and affect the way I play in a way that is very different from how I began playing instrumental, jazz.
Is there going to be any electric project in the foreseen future with an electric lineup, electric band like the Future 3 or 4 years ago? Something we can look forward to?
Well, actually, there are two things I can mention that happened recently. One of them is that there's this big rock festival that they have every year in Tennessee called the Bonnaroo Festival. It's near Nashville, Tennessee. And it's really a huge festival. They have many stages, and it's outdoors. And anyway, I was asked to participate in that festival this year. And I put together a band that we called Headhunters 05, Headhunters for the New Millennium. So that was one kind of electric/acoustic project that we did. I also played acoustic piano on this, as well as synthesizer, primarily the new Korg Oasis, which I saw that Keyboard magazine did a big article on.
Question.
Information but also the
leak to the public regarding your gear.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting into that now.
Thank you.
The iMac G5 and software instruments that are in the program Logic, and some other software synthesizers and sample libraries, like some of the libraries from Spectrasonics. I used Vocal Planet, which has various vocal samples from all over the world, and some from gospel choirs, some things that kind of remind me of the group Take Six, and piano samples of, there's one called Ivory that I was using. But the strange thing is, from Ivory, I was mainly using the string sound, which is one of the pads that's in the program for the acoustic piano. But it sounds so beautiful and so rich and lush. You know, I mean, I like that sound actually more than some of the string samples that I heard from some of the other programs, and some samples from GarageBand. You know, Apple's sample library. That's you know, really designed for not just professionals, but for normal consumers. You know. The Yamaha motif, I've been using that too, the rack version. But at home I also have the keyboard, full keyboard version. So those are the main instruments that I've been using. Oh, I can't forget native instruments. I mean, I'm using their full line, the complete. NI complete, you know, because I mean they have some really incredible stuff.